Hello, hello. This is actually one of my favorite topics to talk about. And I'm sad we only have a half an hour, but I'll do my best. But yeah, this is such a fun season for all kinds of fun produce that is available to us in Ohio this fall here. So we're going to kind of talk about when we look at our plate, what and how it should be separated as we're kind of looking at our food groups just really quickly. I know I'm sure you've gone over that a couple times, but I wanted to just remind you of how that should look here. And then we're going to dive into some really awesome fall foods and their nutrient benefit, as well as how to kind of incorporate that into your meals throughout the day here. So welcome. Let's go ahead and dive right in. So this is just a quick example of ideally how our plate should look. Now, I don't want anybody to get scared if it's not how your plate looks now. It's those small steps that maybe you can start taking just to be more mindful of how a healthy, balanced plate should look here. So ideally, guys, we want to try to fill half of our plate with vegetables. And I love how it says colorful vegetables, right? More fruits and vegetables and all foods that have those different kind of colors, we're going to get those different phytochemicals and antioxidants and all that great stuff that's going to benefit our body in different ways. And again, if we are eating a variety, we're ensuring our body is getting all the nutrients and minerals that we need instead of, eating spinach every day, which we know is healthy. But if that's all we're eating and we're not eating a variety of vegetables, we're missing out on all those other nutrients we could be getting here. So variety is very, very important when we're thinking about a healthy, balanced meal. And then we go to about a fourth of our plate of those complex carbohydrates there. Those are going to be your whole grains, beans, sweet potatoes, some starchy veggies. A thing that they don't have listed is fruit, actually. And I think a lot of times we get confused, but fruit is a carbohydrate, right? So ideally, we want to think about spreading out our fruit and our carbs throughout the day, not having and filling up on all carbs and fruit only here. So that's a fourth of the plate for us guys. And then the last fourth of our plate is going to be protein. And we want to try to choose the lean protein, right? Like fish, beans, legumes, all of that great stuff. So we're going to talk a lot about the fall vegetables here coming up. That's why you guys signed up, right? So some of these fall vegetables are a little starchy. Some squashes are a little bit on the starchier side. So we might want to pay a little bit more attention to that and make sure that we are pairing that with maybe some kale and other dark green veggies, Swiss chard, all of that great stuff too. So we're not just maybe having a ton of starchy vegetables with a little protein and missing out on the variety and balance that we should be getting with the other vegetables too. So I just wanted to point that out as we're kind of talking through some of these awesome fall produce here. So any questions when we look at the plate? Great. So let's dive right in. So what I love to do this time of year and into fall is go to my farmer's market. I live in Granville, Ohio, right where Denison University is. It's about 40 minutes northeast of downtown OSU here. And it's such a great way to, if you guys do have a farmer's market nearby, to go check out what is in season for you. So we are lucky enough to have our farmers market be spring through even winter, and we have a winter farmers market where it transfers inside. But it's a good way if you don't know what vegetables are in season around where you live to be able to go and look to see what's available here. So I have a website for you. It's called localharvest.org. And this is a great way where you can type in your own zip code and it'll spit out your local farmers markets in your area close to where you live, as well as those CSA, which is community supported agriculture. They're usually different weekly bags, produce bags that some of the farmers and markets have for you, where you can pick it up every week for a certain amount of time, that where they have their produce that they picked for you. And they might even include a recipe. And it's a good way to, again, know what's local, know what's in season, and kind of try some new things that you might not normally buy or see at the grocery store. So I always like to remind people of that, especially when we have a change of seasons. And if you don't know what's in season, that can be a really good way to get started for you. I also like to start thinking about maybe cooking and freezing some of the foods that we're into right now so that you have them throughout the winter months, and even summer veggies, right? We're kind of getting towards the end of that. We might have a lot of tomatoes and whatnot left. So that is a good way to kind of start thinking about how you can use that produce to its benefit and not feel like it's a waste here. So again, as we're starting to think about the fall stuff, that might be a good step for us to get started. Another thing that a lot of people like to do, and I know that we had a really cool educational program a couple days ago on cooking in the fall, which is fantastic. There are a lot of things that we can cook in the fall here, and we can harvest into the colder months. A lot of vegetables and some fruits like the cold weather, and they'll actually thrive better in colder weather. So here's some of the ones that are more planting during the fall produce for us, like beets, some of those great squashes, carrots, radishes, bok choy, kale, spinach. Those hardier greens can be wonderful. And again, we look at some of these and you're like, oh yeah, I already planted those for the spring and summer. Most certainly, some of these vegetables can be planted year long. They like hot and cold and they're not as fussy, right? Which is great. But I always like to share this with people too, as we're thinking about moving into the fall. What if you're wanting to experiment with planting a little bit in the fall, what those vegetables and could look like here. There is a great website that I am sharing with you too, if you want to look at actually how to do that to plant a fall garden, a guide that's great. They talk about succession planting, which is removing one plant and replacing it with another. Another thing they mention is don't plant the same plant in the same place every year. So we don't want to plant our spinach in the same spot every year in our garden. We maybe want to plant spinach, and then when we're replacing it for the fall, maybe we're going to do radishes. And it actually can be a good benefit because, like I mentioned, with variety with our plate, each set of these plants is going to give the other plant that's being planted in replacement of it great nutrients that are going to be different and really enrich the soil and give our soil the most nutrients that it can if we're adding different kinds of plants to it, if that makes sense. So just something to think about too, if that's something that you've wanted to get started on. Again, there's a lot of great websites. I thought this one was a great and informative to kind of get you started to thinking about it here. So next couple of slides, guys, I just have some of these fall foods and produce that are my favorite and things that I do to use and cook with them here. So we're going to start with pumpkin. This is probably my favorite. I had to start with my favorite first. I go to, again, my local farmer's market, and that's where I really learned the variety of different cooking pumpkins that you can buy. I think Winter Luxury has been my favorite for cooking pumpkin pies. I'm the pie maker for Thanksgiving. But I think a lot of people just think of those sugar pumpkins as being the only pumpkin that you can cook with. You can actually cook any pumpkin. It's not going to hurt you. But there is a difference with the certain kinds to maybe having it be on the sweeter side, right? So some of like the bigger, huge pumpkins that you carve with, again, you can eat them, but they're just not as tasty as some of the other smaller ones here. So pumpkins are full of fiber, guys, definitely. So they're going to make us feel fuller for longer here. That orange color comes from beta carotene, which converts vitamin A in the body, which is really good for your skin and eyesight here. It's also high in antioxidants to help prevent disease. And the seeds are also rich in vitamin D and manganese, which are both important in helping wounds heal. And like I said, there's many different kinds of pumpkins. So, maybe think about that too, as you're maybe wanting to try some out this fall season. I love to just take mine home. I'll scoop the seeds out and get rid of all that like icky, slimy stuff and start drying my seeds. And then I'll roast the pumpkin flesh down in the oven until I can stick a fork in it. And then I take that awesome flesh out and I might puree it and put some in the freezer for later use. I'm going to put some in the fridge that I love to mix with oatmeal or make smoothies out of, or just eating by itself with some cinnamon and just a little bit of brown sugar. So I think a lot of times we think of pumpkin as being sweet, but it's fantastic savory as well. I have some recipes later on, guys, that talk about some pumpkin soup. There's some coconut curry pumpkin soup that I absolutely love. That's absolutely delicious. So that's something too to think about when you're maybe wanting to try something different with pumpkins. So any questions about the pumpkins here? Great. Next, we have beets. Beets are also one of my faves, as well as my little girls here. They're absolutely fantastic. And the cool thing about these beets is that you can eat all parts here. There is betanin, which gives beets their deep red color. And that is actually great for a natural food coloring, as well as protecting our cells and preventing disease here. It's loaded with iron for proper oxygen transport and prevention of fatigue and even anemia. And it contains naturally occurring nitrates to help lower blood pressure. I love to use it raw as well. So I'll take the skin off. You don't necessarily have to, the skin's okay too to eat, but I sometimes will take the skin off and shred it with some carrots and make a great slaw with it, or any other vegetable it's great with. And I love the combination of carrots and beets, and I'll put some fresh mint in there, do a little bit of lime or lemon juice, olive oil, and a little bit of honey. And that's an awesome, awesome side, and very, very healthy and flavorful as well. I also love roasting and steaming them whole, get the skins off, and then I'll add them to salads, sandwiches, casseroles, kind of anything. And have them plain as well as a great side. They're great with peanut butter even, or pistachio butter too. You can slice them thin to make beet chips. If you have a air fryer or even like a mandolin, that you can slice it extra thin and they'll cook great in the oven to kind of get crispy for you for different taste and texture there. They're great for juicing or adding to smoothies to give you those added benefits that we chatted about. And those greens, guys, try if you can get the greens with the beets, that's awesome. Because you can saute those up with even Swiss chard kale. You could do a whole fun green saute with garlic and all kinds of fun stuff, or you can just chop them up raw and throw them into salads for a different taste and texture. So somebody asked, are pumpkins high in carbs? They're a little bit higher in carbs. I kind of mentioned a little bit that some of those squashes are a little bit higher in carbs, but those are the good, healthy carbs that we want to be giving our body instead of those simple carbs, right? So again, they're still considered a vegetable. They're just a little bit starchy of a vegetable. So if I'm having pumpkin or squash with a meal, I'm going to maybe have some dark greens with it and then some protein. So I'm balancing that out a little bit here. Great question. Good, guys. What do you guys do with beets? Does anybody have any fun suggestions that they want to share? Or pumpkin, since I forgot to ask about that last slide. We don't want to leave you guys out, because this is what's fun about doing these educational programs in the chat boxes. You guys can give your fun input for everybody here. Does anybody have any fun ideas for those? Pickled beets. Yes, I love pickled beets. See? Yes, I've had like a fun time this summer doing quick pickling that literally takes 5 minutes, and I've tried all different kinds of stuff, but beets are absolutely fabulous. You can do a spin on putting some cinnamon sticks and anise and all kinds of fun stuff in there as well. Yes, eating pickled beets out of the jar. I'm with you guys. Shred it and add a horseradish for a sweet, spicy topping. Ooh, Katie, now you're talking. That's awesome. Yummy. Shredded beet and carrot salad. Yep. The mustard vinaigrette. I like that. And I haven't done the mustard part with that. Yummy. Now you guys are making me hungry. Beet and feta salad. Wonderful. Beet hummus. I actually made some. I did a webinar on a beet hummus. It's absolutely gorgeous and very, very delicious. It's like that pink color that you see at the top picture, the top part of that juicing, which is very, very good. Good, guys. Yeah, roasted pumpkin seeds are one of my favorites. Nancy, thank you for that. Yeah, they're delicious. And it's nice to feel like you're not wasting it too. Try to use as much as I can, especially with the food costs these days. So thank you guys so much. Oops, somebody else mentioned I made a cold beet and citrus soup with yogurt too. That was good. Yeah, beet soup is delicious. If you have ever tried colder soups, beet soup is fantastic, and it does blend very well with a little bit of yogurt on it. Good. Ooh, somebody mentioned, what do you stuff the pumpkin with? Yeah, pumpkins can be so fun. I have some pictures later on in the slide, guys, to show you, and some great recipe resources, because you can scoop out a pumpkin or even a squash and use that as a boat for so many different things. I've made pumpkin hummus too. So good. These are all fantastic ideas. Thank you. So let's move on to the next food, which is sweet potatoes, also fantastic and delicious. They are full of fiber and vitamin A. They're also good sources of potassium and vitamin C and many other vitamins and minerals. One sweet potato gives you 400% of your vitamin A for the day. Pretty awesome. So if we have trouble with seeing, it might be good to eat a lot of these sweet potatoes. You will start to see a little trend, guys, as I'm talking through the benefits of these fall vegetables. There's some key vitamins that are very common in most of these, vitamin A being one of them. So another thing, just like I mentioned with different kinds and types of pumpkins, there's a lot of different kinds of sweet potatoes that people might not know about, or again, might not be available to us with where we shop. That's the neat thing I do love about farmers markets is they might be having some different types of things that we wouldn't normally be able to get at our regular grocery store. So as you can see in this picture, there's white, purple, and orange as well. I love roasting these guys all the time. I do a butternut squash sweet potato soup. The puree is good for, putting it in breakfast bowls, smoothies, making some sweet potato fries too. I love stuffing some sweet potatoes. So instead of using like a regular potato, you're going to get more nutrients from that color. And I might do like a black bean salsa, Greek yogurt, cheese and cilantro, stuffed sweet potato. I do sweet potato nachos, which are fantastic. So instead of a chip, I use the sweet potato and I'll roast it a little bit and then put a little cheese on it once it's been roasting a little bit. And then I'll top it with some good salsa and cilantro and all that good stuff. It's also good in the morning, like a sweet potato hash. So very fun ideas to do with sweet potato. What other things do you guys like to do with the sweet potatoes? Ooh, look at this. We have a website, guys. We do a roasted butternut squash or sweet potato, roasted Brussels sprouts. Yeah, sweet potatoes and Brussels sprouts are one of my favorite combinations to roast. So good job. It's a very good fall roasting dish. Good. That's fun. Somebody said like a Thanksgiving bread stuffing with more greens, kale, spinach, and cheese. That sounds delicious. Very good. Good. Are there any of these fall veggies that grow better than others indoor in lower light? That's a good question, especially for us. We do have an advantage in that it does get cool here. There are some things that might do better covered up a little bit. Some of the like spinach and some things that are not so hardy might do better where you can kind of control the temperature and light a little bit better. But beets, carrots, most of that stuff, the squashes, they're very hardy and they can be left alone and not need a lot of attention. They're not high maintenance, if that makes sense. Good mashed sweet potatoes. Yes, most certainly. Ooh, sweet potato hash in the air fryer. Kayla, that's a great idea. I feel like you can do anything in the air fryer almost. That's great. Good. Sweet potatoes with barbecue or salmon is my fave. Yes, sweet potato and salmon, they just go really well together. Roasted vegetable sandwich with zucchini, mushroom, spinach, mozzarella, basil. Yum. Great, guys. That's a great idea. Sweet potato pancake. You can do all kinds of stuff with fun pancakes and sneak some good nutrients in that way. Great. Somebody also mentioned the extension office offers some fall winter growing of vegetables, which is really cool. Thank you for that, Jean. Good ideas, guys. Keep them coming. That's awesome. So let's go to spaghetti squash. This is also fun and very low in calories. 1 cup is only 40 calories, guys, which is absolutely fantastic. It also contains omega-3 fatty acids, which I didn't actually know too much about, which is that good, healthy fat that keeps our heart healthy and keeps our skin looking great and good for memory and reducing that inflammation in our body that leads to all different kinds of conditions. It's high in fiber, vitamin A, and again, lots of other vitamins and minerals there. So I don't know if any of you guys have cooked with spaghetti squash before, but it's actually really fun. If you cut it in half And I do scoop out a teeny bit of those seeds. And then again, I roast it flesh down just like I would most other squash or my pumpkin. And then you're going to be able to put a fork through the skin, but then I'll turn it over and start scraping it. And it looks like noodles. It's crazy. So I use that in replacement of pasta. I might do a ratatouille sauce on it. I like it even plain, very simple too. You can scoop that out and again, fill it with some fun stuff for pretty meals and just have fun with it. You can do like a skyline chili experience if you guys are in love with that to mix with it. There's Asian inspiration recipes out there, even some pizza bowls too. So you can have a lot of fun with this one here. What other guys do you guys have with spaghetti squash? Yeah, it's fun. It's delicious. This one is, like I said, lower calories, a little lower carbs. You can even tell it definitely is a noodle texture, but contains a lot of water. So it isn't as many, like I said, calories and carbs and stuff as the other squashes out there. Oh, enchilada bowls, that's fun. And somebody said a friend made it for me with meatballs and pasta sauce. Yep, sounded great. Good. So then we have kale, and I think people are scared of kale if they've maybe tried it and hate it. And I have had it before where I've absolutely not liked it, but there's different kinds of kale too, guys. So I would keep encourage you to try it. Caroline, who's helping us with the webinar today, actually did an awesome video with us a while back where she massaged the kale with some oil. And if you guys have ever experimented with this, it is really wonderful and it tenderizes that kale. It kind of breaks it down and makes it more tender if you massage it. And literally that means putting the kale into a bowl with a little oil and you just start like scrunching it with your hand. And the longer you do that, and it only takes a couple minutes, it really gets darker green and it tenderizes. So that green kale can be like very tough, but some baby kale, if you can buy that in bags at the store, that's very tender. Lancetto kale is one of my favorite, and I love to just chop that up and eat it. I don't have to massage that. I kind of like that texture. So if you have tried it and not liked it, I would encourage you to try it again here. It's one of those super greens, right? They call it the queen of super greens because 1 cup of kale is only 8 calories, 680% biotin it has. It's one of the B vitamins that helps with metabolic processes. 206% vitamin A, 134% vitamin C, and 26% manganese. So pretty cool. It's absolutely awesome. So yes, I love to massage it, add it to salads. It's great to add to smoothies, soups, stews, casserole. You can add kale to a lot of stuff. I've even sauteed it with other vegetables to put in my eggs or to make an omelet. It's great just as a great side dish with some onions and mushrooms and a little bit of garlic and olive oil. So there's a lot of different fun things here to do with kale. So somebody mentioned, yeah, massaging the kale is so helpful. Then add vinaigrette, almond slivers, and goat cheese, dried cranberries add great flavor. Good. Somebody said he added to soup. And what is this stuff? I get it. If you're not used to it, that's okay. You're trying it here. Somebody said what oil is best. Extra virgin olive oil, Crystal, is honestly the best. It has a good concentration of omega-3 fatty acids, and you can get it easiest at the store. And that's the type of oil you want to be using. If you're cooking at a little higher temperature, canola oil. There's also avocado oil that's great. So more of those omega-3 monounsaturated oils are what we want to be choosing for different salad, if we're making salad dressings and marinades and whatnot. Ooh, somebody said fry Lancetto kale and skillet with olive oil and some ACV. Also a little bit of sugar makes a great sweet sour green side. Most certainly. I do that with chard too. Good ideas. We put kale in a cream cheese sauce pasta dishes all the time. Great way to get picky eaters to eat it. Definitely. Somebody also mentioned using it in a hash with quinoa, potatoes, and apples. Yummy. Love all the different tastes and textures going on there. So good. So next, guys, we have pears. I know a lot of people, we know apples are fall, right? And I love apples, but pears actually are fantastic in the fall, and you can get them year round, but they're honestly the best in the fall. And one pear equals 6 grams of fiber, which is pretty awesome. Awesome. The peel also contains quercetin, which is an antioxidant that is thought to benefit heart health by decreasing inflammation and reducing heart disease risk factors like high blood pressure and those cholesterol levels. And that brings a good point too, is if I can wash and eat the peel on most things, I will, because there can be a lot of good nutrients in the peel of the foods that you eat. So just as a little side note here to kind of think about a little bit more as you're eating your produce. So pears are great by themselves. We know that they're absolutely delicious. They're sweet in and of itself. I love to add them to get a sweetness, maybe in some salads, smoothies, sandwiches, even oatmeal. I have my favorite dish that I just made last week because it's almost fall, right? I got excited that I cut the pear up with squash and red onion and roast it with a pork tenderloin and roast that all together. It's absolutely delicious with sage and a little bit of honey and vanilla. And it's just one of my favorite dishes ever. Poached pears are fun too. And, some people don't drink alcohol, but this is a fun one. If you heat up white wine and some different liquids and you let the pear sit and it kind of absorbs those liquid, and it's very yummy dessert option there. So let's see. For fall holidays, baked pears and white wine with cinnamon and walnuts. Yes. Yep. Yes, Jill, I have that pork tenderloin recipe later on for you. Most certainly you will get that. So does anyone have any tips for making pears less grainy? I'm fine with the taste, but I hate the texture. They are a little grainier. And I think, like somebody mentioned, make sure they're ripe. There's different kinds of pears too. Asian pears versus the Bartlett. I love the red pears. I forget the name of them. But I feel like some of them are a little less grainy than others. So I would try to experiment with trying different kinds, because you might be surprised that you might love one and not the other here. Somebody mentioned the sweet potato and pear soup. So fun. My husband, we own a restaurant in Granville, and he makes a curry pear soup that's fantastic. It's been on the menu since we've been open. It's the house soup, and that's absolutely delicious. Oh, good ideas. So yeah, there's all kinds of stuff with pears. I love you guys paired a lot of good spices with it, like the ginger and cinnamon, anise, all that delicious stuff. What's my restaurant called? It's Snapshots Lounge in Granville. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, but yes, he has fun with all of these different tastes and textures too. Oh. Guys, parsnips here. There's a lot of root vegetables that are in season this time of year, and they're absolutely delicious to roast. Parsnips, I think, don't get talked about as much, but a half a cup of parsnips equals 3 grams of fiber. They contain more than 10% daily values of the vitamin C and folate, and 1 cup equals 14% potassium, which is a mineral that helps your heart function, balances your blood pressure, and lowers your risk of kidney stones. So these guys are great. I do a lot of purees with them for soups and do mashes. I might, instead of just regular mashed potatoes, sneak the parsnips in to get more nutrients. They're great for fries, or they're great raw too. And they're just a little bit better substitute for potatoes here, because they're less carbs and a little bit more nutrients that way. So yes, sorry guys, I can talk about this all day. We have a couple more slides and then I'll let you go. Sorry, Caroline. Cranberries is the last guy we'll talk about. And this is great. I know a lot of times cranberries are very traditional for Thanksgiving, but they can be used throughout the fall because they are in season this time of year. They're a lot of carbs, lots of fiber, and they contain about 90% water. So little goes a long way. They contain some really awesome things, guys. The proanthocyanidin helps prevent harmful bacteria from sticking to your bladder wall and getting those UTIs. And this same antioxidant also helps with having healthier gums and teeth, and also a healthy gut. So that antibiotic is huge. They're very bitter though. If any of you have had like a cranberry, oh my gosh, very bitter. So that's why we have to be a little bit careful to not just have cranberry juice that is going to be added a ton of added sugar to it. So if you guys can down the regular 100% cranberry juice, that's awesome. Or you can add it to a little bit here and there to kind of still get the benefit. But it's great. Cranberries are great with other things and used for sauces, dressings, and smoothies even. If you are on blood thinners, maybe chat with your doctor about adding cranberries to your diet, because if you do have a lot, they might interfere with some of the medicine that you're taking, Coumadin and stuff, because of that high vitamin K content. So just a little side note there. Ooh, somebody said, I love eating cranberries from the freezer. Yeah, I love that. I'm like a bitter sour person, so I don't mind them. But yeah, you can water them down. That's great. You can definitely. And then here's just a collage of some of my favorite recipes, guys. On this next slide are the links to most of these. But I love to do butternut squash. That's one of my favorite squashes to cook. And this lasagna here has butternut squash, spinach. Fantastic to always have some kind of pureed squash in your refrigerator this time of year to add to stuff like that. This is a harvest fall salad, fantastic with some green lentils and butternut squash and this tahini dressing that's to die for. This picture of Fuzzy, I'm so sorry, they use pork chops, but I use the pork tenderloin, like I mentioned, with the pear and butternut squash and sage. There's pumpkin soup, the poached pears. This is a really fun delicata squash, they call it. And that's with quinoa and chickpeas and cranberries and all kinds of delicious stuff going on there. This picture is of pumpkin tacos to kind of get out of your comfort zone, that they can be used in so many different ways, the squashes here. And then this last picture is just a little a pumpkin puree, or even any kind of squash, sweet potato you can layer with that Greek yogurt and some great, cinnamon nuts or homemade trail mix type of thing for breakfast. And all of the links to the recipes and more are in this next slide to come. And then I just have some resources too. These are just fun fall produce recipes and what's in season in Ohio for the fall and all of that delicious and fun stuff too. So sorry guys, I went over. Does anybody have any questions or